boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome on this Monday morning to the Jeff Iafrate Show. It is the start of NFL free agency. It begins this week, and the Detroit Lions have a lot of work to do, given what happened over the weekend. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend. Zadarius Smith released. Marcus Davenport re-signed. Should be a busy week, right? Carlton Davis, a free agent. We'll see. I expect a lot to happen. I don't expect Brad to spend a bunch of money, but I do expect some edge to be signed. I think it's safe to say that. When you bring back Marcus Davenport on actually a pretty reasonable contract, even though we all are kind of out on Marcus Davenport starting on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, you can safely say the contract is pretty much risk-free. When you look at it, and here's the details of the actual contract: 1 year, $3.65 million, $1.65 million guaranteed, $1.75 million cap hit, $50,000 per game bonus. It's like you got to incentivize this man to play games at this point, which, you know, is fair. $2 million in incentives. Like, that's pretty much all Marcus Davenport's going to get. So, yeah. Is he going to start on the other side of Hutch? Please, no. No, absolutely not. He should not be starting on the other side of Hutch. He should he should be DN3-4, and I expect him to be that. God forbid he actually is DN2. I think all Lions fans should be absolutely outraged. But I really don't expect that to be the case. I expect this week someone to be brought in, and I'll give my thoughts on that in a couple of minutes here because I'm going to get into the Za'Darius Smith stuff. I know I posted a video yesterday sharing my kind of initial thoughts on it, and how it was hard to make a complete judgment call till I see this week and see what the Lions actually do before reacting to the Za'Darius Smith thing, because to me, it's like a canvas. It's not finished yet. I can't be outraged. Yeah, by the way, I am upset that he's not on the team anymore. But I have to see what the next step is for Brad Holmes. I have to see who else he brings in. But I'll get into a lot of things today. I'll talk about what I expect out of free agency at about 9:30. 9:15, I'll get to Carlton Davis. It's reported he's not expected to return, which, you know, is pretty big deal, I will say. And I'll talk about some other alternative options the Lions could go with. And then later in the show, if we have time, I do want to do a live mock draft with you guys, and you guys can vote on who you want the Lions to take. We'll go through all 7 rounds. It shouldn't take that long because it's hard. I was going to come on today and do a mock draft and show you guys my mock, but it's hard because free agency is this week, and I'm going to do a mock before the Lions actually make any moves. I'd rather do a mock after free agency to see what the Lions actually do. So that's kind of my thought process on that. But let's get into the Zadarius Smith stuff because, again, I shared my thoughts on it initially already. Now I've had another day to kind of soak it in, process it. I know Lions fans, I see you guys in the chat. Booner got mossed. Davenport will be out with an injury come week 4. Yeah, I mean, that's the Davenport experience. We know what to expect. He's probably going to be hurt. We know how the story ends. We said it last year on the show. We're like, well, like the upside, but most likely going to be hurt. What happened? He got hurt. I know people will say, well, Jeff, it was a freak injury. Injuries are all injuries. It doesn't matter how they come. Guys get hurt. That's been the problem with Marcus Davenport. Even though the talent's there, it's just never on the field. So best ability is availability, which he just can't stay on the field. So if he's depth, cool. But if he's playing significant snaps for you, that's a problem. The Zadarius Smith stuff. Okay. This is why I'm confused. And I talked about this yesterday. I understand the cap hit. Okay. He was expected to make $11 million. I think with incentives, it was going to be a little more than that. This is someone who you traded for at the deadline, led your team in sacks with no Hutchinson. And I thought he did a pretty good job without Hutch. I know I was pretty consistent last year talking about Za'Darius Smith, and I thought Lions fans, not all Lions fans, but some were holding him to a standard. Like he had to be, fill some of that void without Hutchinson. And clearly he's just not that player. He's a complement to your edge one. That's what he's supposed to be. That's what he was in Cleveland. And that's what I expected him to be in Detroit, right? You have Hutchinson, who's going to get you 15, 17 sacks, whatever it is. And then you have Za'Darius Smith, who can get you, 8, 9 sacks, which, to be honest with you, is the second most sacks on your team, actually by a couple. Like, no one's touching that number at this point. It's kind of upsetting, but it is what it is. He would have been your second most productive player this year. I can almost bank on it. And the thing about Zadarius, in which I absolutely love, and I think is one of the most underrated points about Zadarius, is he's always available. Last 3 seasons, he's played in almost every game. That's what you look for in players, right? He's available. He plays games. He's good against the run. He's a power rusher, big. And I think he fits pretty damn well what the Lions are looking for. That's why they love Marcus Davenport, right? Power guy, big. What he can do on the other side of Hutch, well, that's kind of Zadarius Smith. And on top, take away the stuff on the field, right? He's a good player. What he brings in the locker room, he's a good presence to have. He knows this division very well. He fits perfectly with the culture. He embraced the city, embraced the team, which I know that's not the only reason why you keep players, but those are definitely bonuses. He's a favorite, not only amongst the locker room, but amongst fans. So when you see the report come out that he's been released, like the money, when you look at it contractually, you're like, okay, I can kind of see it, because even if you were to pay him $11 million, you're not committed to him long-term. You have cap space this year available. You could have just let the contract ride out. And if you didn't want to re-sign him next year, you don't have to. So the money, it's like, okay, I kind of understand it. But when you look at some of the free agent edges guys, and Harold Landry just signed a pretty hefty deal, which again, I was out on Harold Landry. He's not a fit here. Not a huge fan of him as a player. It's just my opinion. But let's say hypothetically, they signed Khalil Mack. Okay. Let's say hypothetically they signed Khalil Mack. What do you think he's going to demand? Probably $10 million. You think you're going to sign him for $3 million, $4 million? No, he's going to demand about $10 million. And you had Za'Darius for 11, and he's younger and probably just as productive. And he's already been a part of the team. And he's on your roster. You don't have to outbid anyone. Khalil Mack will probably have the Bears involved in bidding for him. He'll have other teams bidding for him. So it's that's where I'm a little confused. People are like, oh, it's okay, we'll sign Khalil Mack. It's are we sure that's a massive upgrade? I'm not. And I like Khalil Mack. But at 35 years old, 36 years old, what? No. That's not a certain upgrade either. So it is a little confusing. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, trust in Brad. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't. But I have to see how this week plays out. I said that yesterday. If by the end of the week you upgraded, clear upgrade, then we can have a discussion. But at this point, it's upsetting, because the big thing with what the Lions are looking for is a productive defensive line. And they had a guy who had 9, 10 sacks last season, and he's gone. So, of course, fans have the right to be upset about that. It's just how it is. Ryan says Ray probably asked Za'Darius to restructure, and he declined, which I do believe that was the case. You're not paying a rotational player $11 million and $5 million next year. Yeah, I understand that, but here's the thing, and I think with Za'Darius, I think to call him a rotational player, I'm going to be honest, I think Marcus Davenport is way more of a rotational player than Zadarius Smith. Zadarius Smith, even at this age, is a 3-down guy. And now, if you get a rookie and you want to have a rotation, that's fine. But I wouldn't say Zadarius is just some guy you bring in as a rotational piece. He's a legitimate starter. He's a really good starter, actually. And that's kind of the point I'm making here. Is I get the contract stuff. I do. And my big hope was you bring him back on a cheaper deal, which I guess they could still do, but he already said a goodbye post on Instagram. So I don't know if that's really the case either. So it'll be upsetting to see him go. And like I said, there's no definitive upgrades in free agency, in my opinion. I mean, name one. Unless you go get Trey Hendrickson, which that would be an upgrade, but you have to sign him to a long-term deal. So I don't know. Khalil Mack to me is not just a definitive upgrade. It's oh yeah, it's Khalil Mack. Guys, it's not Khalil Mack of 5 years ago. It's Khalil Mack of right now. And he's a fine player, don't get me wrong. And it's probably a lateral move to me from Zadarius Smith. But what is Khalil Mack going to get you? 8, 9 sacks? That's exactly what Zadarius Smith would have gotten you. And he's younger. So that's my point is, I'm curious what happens this week. I am. And I think also and I want to mention this too, with the Derek Barnes contract, because I've already voiced my opinion on that. I actually don't mind it at all. I don't. It's not a lot of money. And on top of that, You look at the actual contract and look at the breakdown. It's fair. I have no issue with it. And I love Lukas Klotz. We went at him on the show, and I know Derek Barnes responded to him on Twitter and went at Lukas. And then TJ Lang jumped in, apparently no one's allowed to share their opinion unless you're an NFL player or Mike Valeni, which is not the case. Lukas has every right to share his opinion, and TJ Lang has no right to ask him who he is. That's demeaning and ridiculous, but I digress. I actually like the contract. I do. And you're seeing more linebackers sign, which is actually making his contract look even better, which is a great thing, right? You have Ernest Jones signing for like $11 million, $12 million. You have Levante David. He signed at $9 million, but again, Levante's a little older, but he's still a really good player. I think this Derek Barnes contract is going to age like fine wine. I do. And I fully expect him to get better. He's 25 years old. And it's funny because Brad, being the, excellent GM that he is, you sign guys early, so you get to wait and watch the market get inflated. That's exactly what he did with Derek Barnes. He signed him early. Now you're seeing the linebacker market inflate. It's kind of like what happened with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now you have T. Higgins repeatedly being franchise tagged and Jamar Chase not being paid yet. Now you have DK making what he's making. And then you just had Myles Garrett become the highest paid non-quarterback, which is exactly what the Bengals promised Jamar Chase. So Brad got ahead of it with Amon-Ra. He got ahead of it with Panay. He got ahead of it. Well, I guess not really ahead of it, but he signed Jared Goff. And now you got ahead of it with Derek Barnes. Now, Derek Barnes is not on the caliber of those players, but even in a smaller, I guess it's not as big as those players, but a smaller version of that, he still got ahead of other linebackers that are probably just as good that are making more money. So I have no issue with it. It's like technically you look at it, it's like a 2-year, $16 million deal, but I know it's 3 years, 25.5, but there's like an out in there as well. So the way it's constructed, it's a great contract. I'm happy for D Barnes. He gets to come back. And again, I think he'll get better. I think he'll be excellent in that Sam role. I really do. Let's see. Tom says, what happened with TJ Lang? I'm out of the loop. Well, TJ tried jumping into the Derek Barnes and Lukas back and forth, which I don't know why TJ Lang would jump in there. It was completely irrelevant, but Lukas and Derek Barnes had a little back and forth, and Lukas, I thought, responded very respectfully. Like, Lukas doesn't mean anything disrespectfully to any of these players. Like, Lukas shares his opinion, just like he has every right to do that. Just like you guys have every right to go on Twitter and share your opinion. It's literally a social media site to share your opinion. But people, get upset with it. I think Derek Barnes responded at like 2 a.m., so he's probably celebrating his contract on a Friday night and just, he's probably having a little too much fun and just jumped on the phone and whatever. Either that or he was at home just laid up, up late at night and responded to Lukas. I thought it was hilarious. It's fine. And then TJ Lang jumped in there and tried going at Lukas, and it's like, okay, this doesn't really involve you, but regardless, it was a good little back and forth there. Silent service players are getting paid because of the TV and streaming services contract. Yeah, the cap's going up repeatedly. So again, I didn't even mention that the cap's going up. So yeah. Broski Bear says Davenport. Well, you know what? We're going to see how this, what happens this week, because Davenport that is a rotational piece right there. Ryan says, but I don't agree it stinks. They should have just ate it, but I understand it's a business. Yeah, Ryan, I get that. I understand it's a business too. I think we're on the same page here. Like, I understand contractually to a certain extent. Like, I understand it if you were to bring him back. So I don't know what's going on. Now you have all these people out here. I see all these other fan bases like, oh, Zadarius Smith is a free agent. It's like, yeah, of course they should want him. He's a really good player. Like, I'm just frustrated with that. It's like, what? You had a really good player under contract, and I didn't think it was a terrible, terrible contract. It's 1 year left. And I know you talk about the second year, but it's like, just what? You have money now. Just eat the money. You get a guy who gets you 8 to 10 sacks. Like, whatever. Again, I'm not going to have a for sure opinion. Like, I can't just go at Brad without seeing the finished product. I think that's a little premature. I have to see what happens this week to have a formidable opinion. I have to see what happens today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I have to see what Brad does, because then I can have an actual opinion on this, because it'd be funny if I came out here and yelled and screamed about how Brad doesn't know what he's doing, even though he's built a pretty good team. And then a couple days later, you're like, oh, the roster's actually pretty nice. And then I have to be like, well, I walked those comments back. I'm not going to overreact to it. I am disappointed in the Za'Darius Smith release. I am. Davenport, I actually don't mind. And I even brought that up as an idea on the show before. Like, would you guys be open to bringing him back on like a basically a minimum to be like a depth piece? I said to you guys, I'd be open with that. I would. So I have to be consistent. I don't mind the Davenport thing. Like, we can joke about it, but as long as he's not starting, I don't care. He's fine. He's fine. It's all he is. He's fine as depth. He'd basically be in like the Al Muhammad role, which, like, respect to him. Al Muhammad's actually a decent player, but that would be Davenport essentially. I mean, that's what he would be essentially. But Carlton Davis is the big storyline, because this week we're going to find out what happens with Carlton Davis, and he's going to be one of the highest. I mean, he's going to be the highest paid corner in this class. He certainly will. There's going to be a market, and Carlton Davis had some comments to The Athletic, and I want to read you guys his comments, because I think these comments are very telling, and you have to pay attention, especially with a guy like Carlton, who seems to be talking as much as he is. He's been outspoken about free agency. You got to listen to what they're telling you, okay? Rod Beard always used to say that. Shout out to Rod Beard. He's got to listen. When they say things like GMs, coaches, or players, people look past things, but there's a reason for why they're saying what they're saying. So let's read these comments. All right. And I will go through them. It's on Pride of Detroit. So shout out Jeremy Reisman actually with the article. So big shout out to him. But let me pull up these comments. It was actually Mike Silver of The Athletic. And Mike Silver doesn't believe that he'll be back. But here's the comments. All right. It says, from Mike Silver. And by the way, this is on Pride of Detroit. They put out an article. You can check it out. It's talking about this. You can actually read Jeremy's what he thinks about it there. But I'm just taking the quote. But it says, Davis fully expects to relocate, and he insists he won't sign until the price is right. He said, quote, I feel like last time I just kind of panicked, Davis told The Athletic on Saturday. I was younger, and my mindset was, I need to go ahead and just choose. At the time, the thinking was, this is the offer, and the more you wait, the more the number's going to go down. Yeah, that can happen, but teams know your value, and right now I'm playing my best football. This time, I'm not going to settle for less. It says Davis, 28, doesn't believe the Lions will make an aggressive effort to bring him back. Nor should they. That's where I'm at with it. Nor should they. Due respect to Carlton Davis, like, all due respect. I think he's honestly, like, I was impressed with him all year. I know he had a season-ending injury, and the injury he sustained is pretty random. I mean, it was a jaw injury. Like, I get that, but it's been the storyline with Carlton his entire career. And this isn't like missing a game or two a year. Like, obviously, guys are going to miss a game. He's missing 4 to 5 games a year consistently, and it's not even missing games. It's when you miss them. Last year, he missed the entire postseason and the end of the season. And what do I think about Carlton? I think when Carlton's healthy, at his best, he's probably at his best, probably top 10, but I would say top 15, in between top 10 and top 15 corner in the league, which, again, is I'm not taking anything away from that. He's a good player. Do I believe he should be paid closer to $20 million? No. Do I believe you should commit to him long-term, given you have all these guys you have to sign? No. I think what you have to consider is you drafted 2 corners. And I'm not saying this is a fact, but I'm saying typically when you draft a corner in the first and second round, those guys are ready to play by year 2, 3. They should be. If they're not, we have an issue, right? Or it's just a wasted draft pick, in my opinion. So with that assumption, with Terran Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw developing, you're getting closer to be like, all right, guys, let's go. It's time to roll, right? Terran Arnold's second year, it's time to roll. I don't think you should throw Terran Arnold in a cornerback 1 role. Not saying that at all, but I'm saying you just need someone to buy you some time, almost like a bridge corner, right? That's what it should be. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, because I'm going to name you some guys that I don't think are bridge corners, but guys that I think can just hold it down for you. But you just need someone to just hold it down for you until Terran Arnold blossoms into a legit CB1, because that's why you drafted him. You didn't draft him to be a CB2 or just be a role player. You drafted him to be a really good player. And Brad said it himself. he was his number one corner in the entire draft. So typically when you draft your number one corner in the entire draft, you don't have expectations for that player to be a role player. You have expectations for that player to be a star and be really good. Do I think he'll be an all-pro this year? No. But I think you'll see improvement. I think you'll see a better version of Terran Arnold. So what do I think the Lions should do with this Carlton Davis thing? I don't think they should overpay. I don't. I think that would be, in my opinion, it would be shades of what we've seen with the Lions throughout our fandom. It would be shades of desperate. It would be shades of jumping the gun because you're scared of losing Carlton, so you're willing to overpay. And then you realize in 2 years, you're like, did we make a mistake? He's hurt again. I think that would be of the Lions' past. Let someone else sign him. That is okay. He's not a player that you're going to sit there and be like, man, look at him. He just went to Jacksonville and got 3 straight All-Pros. Like, you're going to be fine. Jacksonville needs a player like that. They'll probably pay him what he wants, and that's fine. What do I think the Lions should do? Not overpay for Carlton. Look at the free agent corners. There's guys that are out there that are pretty good. You have Paulson Adebo, who's coming off a break, not a ligament injury, but again, a lot of these, when you look at these injuries, and this is why I use for Aiden, and I think Aiden will be fine because it was a clean break. He'll recover and he'll be fine. I look at ligament injuries a little different because, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not claiming I'm a doctor, but typically ligament injuries, you're a little more worried. Like it's like Deshaun Watson. He tore his Achilles, tore it again. Like some things you get a little more worried about. I think Paulson Adebo will be fine. He's a turnover machine. He's a really good player, but that's someone that you can sign. He's from the Saints that he can hold down that spot for you. Like again, he'll be fine. Will he be at the top 10 corner level? I don't know, but you don't have to get him for as much as you would at Carlton Davis. He would be cheaper. He's younger. He's been available. Besides, obviously, he had a crazy injury last year, but his first 2 years in the league, he was available. Another option, Byron Murphy. There's another one. Byron Murphy's a really good, just hold it down corner. And I think he'd be pretty comparable, maybe not as good, but comparable to a guy like Carlton Davis. Again, someone just to hold down that position until your young corners blossom. That's what they should do. You could make a trade too. I'm not rolling that out, but I'm saying just in free agency, there's options out there. What about Ward? Another corner. He might be a little more hefty, but again, I like Ward. I don't know what his price tag would be, and I'd have to really see what his price tag would be before I have a definitive yes or no, but I think you at least look at him and at least see what he would cost, right? I mean, for the most of his career, he's been really good. So you at least have to reach out and see what that price tag would be. So the Carlton Davis thing is interesting. He has a Super Bowl. So I think take off the Lions hat, look at it from an objective standpoint. Go get paid, Carlton. You're 28 years old. Like, go get your bag, man. Like, I'm not going to count pockets. Like, go get your money. I'm happy for him. He deserves it. He won a Super Bowl already. Right now, it should just be get paid, get your money, be happy. I get it. But from the Lions' perspective, it's not overpay for Carlton Davis. No, what you need to do is invest resources into this defensive line. And by that, I mean get an answer to the other side of Hutchinson and maybe even get DJ Reader's replacement for when he leaves. That's what I'm looking at. So, again, I'm not freaking out about this Carlton Davis stuff. I don't know where you guys are at with it. I'm okay. I'm comfortable letting him go because, again, I'm not overpaying for something just because I guess the demand for him is high. It's like he's the best corner in an okay corner class. Does that mean he's a great corner, an elite corner? No. I think he's a good corner in this league, but I think his contract will be inflated given the class. And I don't want the Lions to make that mistake. So that's where I'm at with it. And I don't know if you guys disagree or agree with me, but that's just how I see it. I think the Lions should, be smart about this. And I think Brad will. I actually applaud Brad for not overpaying and just jumping the gun and being like, oh, here's what you want. No. He doesn't, guys, we know Brad. He doesn't throw money at players unless, A, he has a relationship with them already, even if they're outside of their organization, or he trusts that said individual. But even a DJ Reader short-term contract, Carlton he traded for 1 year left. He'll sign you, but it'll be for a shorter-term deal. He gives these long-term deals to guys that, again, he drafted or guys that have been a part of this organization that he's absolutely sold on. And I don't know if Carlton Davis in 1 year, you just throw a bag at him, in my opinion. I think Brad's approaching this whole thing pretty smart. So that's where I'm at with it. Where are you guys at with the Carlton Davis stuff? Again, I see some comments here. Silent, Adebo would be worth a 3-year contract because he's still young. I agree with that, Silent. I agree with everything. Everything you just said is absolutely correct. 25 years old, 3-year contract. He'll be 28 years old. He's coming off an injury. He won't be as expensive. Like, he knows. And here's I don't know if this is a hot take. Adebo coming off a major injury? Would he be open to a 1-year deal? Come over here and prove it. I know you already did it. Coming off an injury. Here you go. You want to be paid? If I was his agent, go to the Lions. You take a 1-year deal. You ball out. Hit the market next year. Get paid. Here, there's an idea. Now, I don't know. I don't know if it'll happen, but we'll see. Coach Walk 37 says, sounds like CD3 is mad about it. Yeah, I mean, he sounds like a player who's just, he wants to be taken care of. And I get it. Like, I understand it. I just don't think the Lions should be the one to take care of him. Benji says, I think Carlton will see what his market looks like and go from there. If we have the ability to sign him back again on another 1 year, somehow doubt it. But he's at an age where he wants that contract. Understandable. Yeah, Benji. That's the civil way to see it. It's like you understand it from a human perspective. The dude wants to get paid. You know what I mean? Go get paid. And I don't think there's a 0% chance. He wants not only the salary to be right, but he wants the length to be right. You know, like he wants the length. He wants a 3-year deal, I assume. And like, you know, you're going to be paying a 31-year-old corner $17 million. Like, you know what I mean? And you got guys that need to be paid. It's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. Silent says he's also a press man corner, maybe, but given he just got hurt, he may want a longer contract for financial security. There is that too, Silent. There is that too. There's both sides. So that injury thing could go both ways. It's like, well, I'm coming off a major injury. I want some security. Or he's like, you know what? I'm healthy. I feel great. Give me this 1-year deal. I'm going to show everyone why next year I'm going to hit that market, you know, get a couple picks, win games with Detroit, and then I'll hit the market and some other team will probably overpay him too. Just how the market goes. You are worth what people are willing to pay for you. That is life. It doesn't just apply to sports. Whatever people are willing to pay for you, that is what you're worth. So if Carlton's, you know, if people throw $17, $18 million at him, it's what he's worth. You know, you can disagree with it. All right, let's see here. Night Owl. The secondary will take a step back without CD3 for sure. Same thing with Z on the D-line. Not to mention we traded picks for those guys, just my opinion. Yeah, I mean, especially you traded picks for Za'Darius. I'm with you. It wasn't like a third rounder or something like that, but still, it was you traded capital for those guys, and you got a really good year out of Carlton Davis, but he just didn't finish the year, and you had too many injuries, so they just stacked up. It was unfortunate, sucks, but it is what it is. Maniac Sports says Lions need to do what's best for the Lions, and that's how I think Brad's going to approach this thing, man, because. And that's what I want to get into is like, what should Lions fans expect this week? Shout out to Booner, though. I see Booner in there. He says, is this the Jeff Iafrate? What up, Boone? By the way, Boone was texting earlier about the Michigan State stuff. Michigan standing at half court. I don't know what you guys make of that, but, you know, it's all over my Twitter for some reason. I could really give two shits, but let me get into this thing, okay? What should Lions fans expect from free agency? What is my prediction? Even if you care, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you expect this week? Okay, for me, what do I expect this week from Brad Holmes? I expect resources to be put into this defensive line. I know that's the obvious, but it is. I have to state the obvious first. You have to put something into this defensive line besides Marcus Davenport. I'm sure he knows that. You just cut Zadarius Smith. And Brad... Brad, and this is what I love about Brad. He's petty. He'll call out reporters for stuff he knows. He knows how people feel about this cutting Zadarius Smith stuff. He knows how people feel. He knows what the reaction is going to be. Like, he knows the guy was productive for you without Hutch. Without Hutch. There's no Hutch there. And no Aleem, actually, for a little bit, for more time at the end of the year. So he knows what he is. And you don't make a move, in my opinion, you don't make a move like that unless you have something lined up. There has to be something lined up. He's not an idiot. He's not doing this without a plan. It doesn't make sense. You don't just cut a guy who had 8, 9, 10 sacks last season and not have a plan. So there is a plan. Now, what is that plan? Who do I expect them to sign? Here's the thing. There are options in free agency when it comes to edges. And Harold Landry, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, he's already tied up. He got signed to the Pats. It was kind of an overpay, in my opinion, but whatever. He reunites with his old coach, Mike Vrabel. That's fine. Happy for him, all that stuff. When you look at the other players, in my opinion, clear upgrades, because Myles Garrett's off the table, by the way. But yeah. And Boone, by the way, we talked about that, Boone. Remember? Championship's the only thing that matter. You got to get your bag. It's just how it works. And Myles Garrett, he got the highest paid non-quarterback. It's ridiculous. And then Josh Allen somehow, I think, topped him as in a deal. But yeah, he now he gets to rot in Cleveland. So be it. The only clear upgrades in free agency. Talked about Khalil Mack. I don't think Khalil Mack's a clear upgrade. You can disagree with that. I love Khalil Mack as a player. I really do. I loved him when he was with the Raiders. He went to Chicago. Hated playing against him. He's literally he's a physically imposing man. He's scary. I don't think he's a clear upgrade. I think it's more of a lateral move. That it's for someone that's a little more old. He's older. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's brought in. I wouldn't be surprised if Khalil Mack signed. I think that's probably the obvious one. I think most Lions fans will look at that and be like, yeah, that's probably the option. You get him on a one-year deal. You guys got to think. You got to think about how Brad's going to approach this. He's not going to sign anyone to a long-term deal. Okay, let's get that out the way. So you have to look at options that are short-term. Like Trey Hendrickson, that to me is a clear upgrade, but is he going to sign Trey to a long-term deal? My answer would probably be no. He already kind of stated that at the combine, but also every time a GM says something, it's not always just, it's not always a fact. Sometimes they have to stretch the truth a little bit, not show their hand. But I think Khalil Mack will be the obvious one. I think Khalil Mack will be a good option. It is what it is. I would rather have Za'Darius Smith in my opinion, but whatever. Khalil Mack could be an option. There also is Josh Sweat. He's 28 years old, looking to get paid. But again, guys, that's a guy who's probably going to get $18 to $20 million. And in my opinion, that's a big no-no. It's a big no-no. And I don't think Brad does that, number one. But number two, I would not overpay for Josh Sweat. I think Josh Sweat's a good player. He thrived, obviously, with the Eagles, playing alongside some really good players on that D-line. But Josh Sweat, to me, is not the answer at $20 million. I would much rather pay – if you're paying 20 for Josh Sweat, I'd rather pay Trey 30. You might as well just throw up another extra $10 million and get a guy who led the league in sacks, essentially by himself. So I would rather just get Trey Henderson at that point. So Josh Sweat's an option. I don't think it's realistic. I think some team throws a bag at him, maybe the Cardinals, the Titans. There's other teams that need a player like that. I don't think it's going to be the Lions. So, or he goes back to Philly on a one-year deal, whatever it is. I don't think Sweat would be the answer, nor would I overpay for Sweat. So, in my opinion, Sweat's out of the picture. So Khalil Mack's the obvious one. You also have Hassan Reddick. He's 30 years old. He's a really good player. I don't know what he's going to demand. He sat out games last year to get a contract, and he didn't get one. So I don't know, number one, if that's like a Brad guy. I don't. I think he's a good player. I don't know if he's the personality-wise someone the Lions would want to bring in, but he is one of the best options out there. So that will be interesting. I think another option would be Matthew Judon, which I would be open to. I know Boone's already mentioned it on the show before, and I made a whole video about it when he was available for a trade, and I was pounding the table for the Lions to trade for him because I thought he'd be a really good option. They ended up getting Zadarius Smith, but Judon last year wasn't that good. And I don't, again, you're taking a risk there because you're going to sign him hoping he gets back to what he was with the Patriots, which was a really good player. And I think being closer to home, playing for a winning team and playing with Aiden will help him. He gets to be coached by Casey Rogers, an excellent defensive line coach. Like I think Matthew Judon would play. His play would rise in Detroit, but it's not like Matthew's going to get you 12, 13 sacks. He's more of he might get you 6, 8, something in that ballpark range, which is fine. That's exactly what you expect out of a guy like that. Come in and get me a sack every 2 games. Can you do that? I'll take it. So I would be open with Judon. So far for me, it's Judon, Mack. Those are the two I'm leaning towards. I think those are the two that the Lions will be interested in because it just makes sense. Maybe Judon signs a 1 year, 2 year deal, whatever the case may be. Because we know Brad hasn't signed anyone for more than 2 years. So if he's going to sign someone for more than one, it'll probably be 2. So I think Khalil would be on a 1 year deal. Judon would be on a 2 year deal. I'm open to both. So those are the only two so far that I'm really open to. Like Hassan Reddick, like good player, really good player. Don't think it makes sense. And then Josh Sweat, no. So those are the two right there. The next player I'll get into that's available would be Azeez Ojulari. I talked about it. That's a player I think would make a ton of sense on a 1 year deal. He's young, he's talented. He just can't stay healthy. And now that they've re-signed Davenport, I don't know if I'm as on board with it as I was because I don't want half the defensive line room to be missing half the games in their career. You know, it's a little worrying, is it not? Like you have Davenport as a backup who's never healthy, and then you bring in Azeez who's never healthy. But here's the thing with Azeez. Like I think you can definitely throw a 1 year deal at him. That's a player now getting away from the Paulson Adebo stuff, like because I don't know if that's necessarily the case with him, but I know that would probably be the case with Azeez Ojulari. Like, what leverage does he have? You probably bring him in on a 1 year deal. You throw kind of like Davenport. You throw some incentives at him, and you say, "Hey, if you play these amount of games and get this, you get this amount of sacks or whatever the case may be, yeah, you sign him with an incentive based deal, which I'm okay with. You know, so I'm open to Azeez Ojulari. I don't think that's like we're going to the Super Bowl. We got Azeez Ojulari, but it's like okay, it's depth in your defensive line room. The problem is you need to find someone that's going to start on the other side of Hutch, dude. That's just like the reality of it. And I don't think Azeez is that guy. So it really comes down to Judon or Khalil Mack. And Joey Bosa, I saw him. He's out. He's going to the 49ers. And even if he wasn't, I wouldn't want Joey Bosa here, man. He's just hurt all the time. All the time. He's got to be in a role where he doesn't have to play as many snaps as a typical starter would. And I think the 49ers make a lot of sense for him. And he gets to play with his brother. So I think he's out. Like, you just need an answer. And I think that answer, in my opinion, will come when the draft starts because I think the draft will answer a lot of those questions. We'll see what Brad does in the first round. I know he's going to go BPA, but selfishly, I would love for him to trade up and get an edge. Get like a really good player. Get like a Mike Green or a James Pierce Jr. Get someone that just is a monster. Like, get an absolute dog. Will he do it? I don't know. And there's going to be guys in the second round that are pretty good too. So I think he'll address the edge spot in the draft. But are you depending on a rookie to come in and be the answer? No, not yet. Not at least not immediately. Not immediately. Unless you find a stud who's just a 6-7 sack in his rookie year type of guy. Like the Rams, they did it. It can happen. I mean, you had Braden Fisk and Jared Verse come in, and they were starters and very good. So it can happen. But you still need some depth there on top of that rookie. You do. Like, do I think James Pierce or Mike Green could come in and be really good right away? Yes, I do. I think you should draft immediate impact guys, but you still need depth. You know what I mean? You still need depth. You still need they have Davenport, great, but you still need one more guy, in my opinion. And I don't know who that is. So, in my opinion, guys, to recap, I know I'm talking, but I'm just spitballing here. It's probably going to be Khalil Mack or Matthew Judon. Or a 1 year deal for Ojulari. That's my takeaway. What do I expect? I expect either of those three guys to be signed. And then I expect at corner, I talked about a Paulson Adebo, which I would love. Or you sign a Byron Murphy, someone to come in and hold down that corner spot until Terron Arnold's ready. Because when you draft your number one corner on your board, he should be ready by year 2, year 3. So if he's not ready this year to be CB1, he certainly should be ready next year. Now, like, take away my opinion. Am I in love with what I've seen on Terron Arnold so far? No. But based on what should happen, he should be your number one corner, and by, if not next year, the following year. So that's what I expect, guys, in free agency. I expect one of those three guys to be signed, one of the three defensive linemen, and I expect Byron Murphy, Paulson Adebo, one of those guys to be signed. That's what I expect. A defensive lineman and a corner brought in free agency. Brad always says, well, he addresses needs in free agency. Well, those are your needs, Brad. And he knows that. So those are the two positions you got to fill. And I don't think, again, it's not going to be a bunch of money being spent. I don't think it's going to be Trey Hendrickson. I don't think, obviously, Myles Garrett's off the table. But anyone of like a big-time trade, nothing like that's going to happen, in my opinion. It's going to be a signing, and it's going to be one of those 3 defensive linemen and one of those corners. And then we're going to roll into the draft, trade up, preferably, get a really good edge, or trade up in the second round and get a really good edge. And then you walk away from the draft with probably 2, maybe 3 defensive linemen. Not edges, but just defensive linemen. Maybe you get a Kenneth Grant. Who knows? So that's what I expect out of free agency guys. And I think it's going to be okay. I think I can, I think I can get over that. I'm not going to, if that happens, let's say you sign Judon, you draft a James Pierce Jr., Kenneth Grant, someone, whatever it is, I think I can get over this Zadarius Smith stuff. I'm not going to be emotionally tied to a player. I think Zadarius Smith's a really good player, but or I guess a good player at this point in his career, but I'm not going to sit here and just bring it up all offseason. Like, I can't believe he released Zadarius if these things happen. Now, the flip side, if it's a more quiet free agency period and you have Davenport as technically the starter heading into the draft, I'm livid, as anyone should be. It's like, but I don't expect it to happen. I want to make that very clear. I don't expect it to happen. But let's say hypothetically, it's a kind of a quiet, like maybe you sign a corner and you sign like a depth piece at defensive end. Oh, yeah. Everyone should be like, what is going on? What is going on? But I don't think that happens. I think there is something that Brad has. I mean, he's proven that, guys. Look at, he had a pretty good free agency period last year. I mean, look what he did. Traded for Carlton, signed DJ Reader, signed Davenport, which was a bust, but you get the point. DJ Reader was really good. So, yeah, he's got something. We just got to see it. We just got to see everything fall into place. That's where I'm at right now. And I think Lions fans should be there too. It's okay to overreact. It's okay to say things, right? If you disagree with something, it's okay to voice it. I believe in, free speech. Say whatever the hell you want. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. And I promise I won't pull a TJ Lang and say, who are you to say that? Okay. Anyway, shout out TJ Lang, by the way. It's all fun. It's just, I'm going to make fun of that man for that. I don't know. It's ridiculous. I love Klotz. Klotz can go voice his opinion. I don't care. It's a free country. Say whatever you want. And TJ Lang has every right to say, hey, I disagree with it and you're an idiot. But I don't care who you are. But don't gatekeep opinions. Like, whatever. All right. Yeah. Booner got mossed. We could have not signed Davenport and kept Za'Darius. Yeah, but you know what? And I get it. I understand the outrage with Davenport. I think there's a memory in people's minds of this man last year and what we had to witness, which was a player that was hurt and continued to be hurt. But again, I'm not going to jump up and down and scream and freak out about the Davenport stuff because it's like, it's a 1-year deal. You're paying pennies. I mean, like, I would love to right now. Here, let me do this. I want to see. So he's making, like, what's his cap hit? I know Booner tweeted it. It's like 1 point something million. Yeah, let me see. I got to pull this up because now I'm curious. Now you got me curious. Now I got to do this comparison. Let me see what the exact cap hit is. I have it right here. Okay, so Boone tweeted it out. Shout out to Boone. It's a cap hit of 1. Let me see if this is about to load. Come on, it's like 1.75 or something. Let's see. Because depending on now, my Twitter's not loading. But it's dirt cheap. And if you're looking at the Lions salary cap, I think Giovanni Manu's cap hit this year is like 1.1. 1.1. So it's like 1.75. Thanks for that, Benji. I don't know. Twitter's just whatever. 1.75. So it's like 1.1 for Gio. It's like you're paying an extra $600K, essentially. That's the cap hit. Like for Davenport. It's like, all right. If it works out, great. He leaves, gets paid. If it doesn't, cool. Last year at what was it, 9 million? 8-9 million for Davenport last year. I get that because he gave you essentially nothing. So I'm not gonna freak out about the Davenport stuff. I think Davenport is he's fine as a depth piece, but again, if he's starting, that's a whole nother conversation. Then we have an issue. Then I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna be upset. And I'm gonna be overreactive and be a baby. But until then, I'm not gonna overreact. Okay, it's fine. It's a cheap contract. It's a flyer, but not a flyer last year. It's literally, and I mean this because I would love a contract like this. It's not pennies, but it is pennies. Okay. Like, not to people like us, but to that caliber, to NFL players, it essentially is it's pennies. It's literally $1.75 million, which to the cap is like nothing. It is. Shiftcat says, feel bad for Za'Darius, man. He got with Castell just to be unemployed. Yeah, I mean, you better not share that news with Castell, man. It's tough. It's a brutal world out here, Shift. I better not see he's not with her anymore. That'd be a tough way to end, man. Benji says, people see the worth 4.75 and don't take in the full contract. I feel like it's a revolving door every year and fans forget how free agency works. Yeah, and it's a common thing. It is. And people see the initial number. That's why when we react to contracts, you have to wait and see what the actual contract is and how it's constructed. That's the thing with franchise tagging. There is no constructing. It's just a boom, cap hit. That's why the Bengals are idiots. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you franchise tagging T. Higgins? Now you got a 26, 30, whatever it is, $1 million cap hit. That's it. Cap hit. Boom. No restrict. You can't space it out, spread it out, front load it, back load it, signing bonus here. You can't it's just cap hit. And now you can't build a defense. So yeah, I agree with that. People freak out before seeing the actual details. That's why the Derek Barnes, the details of that is great. It actually makes the contract look better. Which Booner broke it down, by the way. Give Booner a follow at Booner Sports on Twitter. He broke down Derek Barnes' contract and Marcus Davenport's contract. So, yeah, I love it. I mean, you got to read into the incentives. Like the Davenport has incentives in his deal, which I love. That his deal should be like 100% incentives. Like, make that dude earn everything, because, I mean, not that that's ever a thing, but you get my point. It's like, dude. You got to incentivize this dude just to play, not get hurt. It sucks. I know he had a freak injury last year, but that's just the reality of it. It is. Like here, Booner says Davenport, 1 year, 3.65, $1.7 million cap hit, 50K game bonus, $2 million in incentives with sacks. Great deal for the Lions. Danny G says, we need to keep cap space. DK Metcalf just got 30 million, Garrett 40, J-Mo and Hutch and Kirby all coming up. Yeah, I mean, Kirby's not even signed yet, guys. And that's the thing that you're going to have to wait and see with that, because, I mean, how do you pay a player coming off 10 picks? Like, I wonder what that looks like. Brad's going to be in there he's going to be battling. Because he led the league in interceptions. He was an all-pro. It's like, what does his contract look like? He's probably a top-paid safety, which he deserves that, by the way. Keep him around. I love Kirby Joseph. He's the best. But, yeah, he's going to sign him. You got Aiden Hutchinson coming up, and guess what? This is why the Bills just paid Josh Allen early. Because the Bills paid Josh Allen 4 years before he's owed. Which, when I saw him, like, oh my God, they attached another 6 years to a 4 year. He has 4 years left, and they slapped another 6 years on it. You know how smart that is? So smart. And now you're seeing with Aiden, it's like, and if I'm Aiden, I'm not taking a contract right now. No way. No way. I'm going out there this year, leading the league in sacks, and hey, yesterday's price isn't today's price. Now you owe me $40 million. So that's exactly what Hutch should do and probably will do. Now, I saw Myles Garrett get 40. I don't know if he'll get exactly 40, depending on the season he has. If he goes out and leads the league in sacks, boy, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money. A lot of dough. And he's worth every penny. But maybe you get him at 35. Maybe you get him at a little more than Max Crosby. That's probably more realistic, but that man Aiden's going to get paid. Paid. I'll tell you that. He's going to be an expensive player. Currently, we have Hutch, Davenport, Pascal, Lynn, and Ukwu. Hefe, that means we need like 3 more edges. Yeah. Yep. I expect 2 of them to come from the draft. 1 to 2 of them coming from the draft. And then one of them will either be a Judon, Mac, or Azeez Ojulari. That's what I expect. So I think you get 1 in free agency, 2 in the draft. That's my official prediction. So it's in video. So we'll see how this ages. But yeah, and by the way, I want to address the JMO part. Someone commented about JMO's contract, and we got to see JMO go do it again. I think he will. But yeah, JMO's gonna, if he stacks up another 1,000 yards, that would mean what? He's got 1 more year left after that, and before I guess his contract's due, he'd probably be, if he puts another 1,000 yard up, he could have 3,000 yard seasons. He'll probably be looking for 25, 30. I wouldn't be shocked. Do I think the Lions should give it to him? Nope, I don't. And it has nothing to do with JMO. It's just real. You got to be realistic here. This isn't Madden, dude, with the contract being off. Or excuse me, the salary cap being off. You can't just pay all these guys. You got to make a decision here. You know what I mean? You just have to. And I think with JMO, it's like, you know what I mean? You can't afford to pay everyone. You just can't. And maybe they can squeeze JMO in at like 20. But it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to keep all these guys. I mean, that means you're going to have a $25 million receiver, $25 million receiver. You have a $30 million receiver. You have a $50 million quarterback. You have a $30 million left tackle. I mean, you're going to be paying Taylor Decker if you extend him a little longer, unless they don't, which I don't think they probably should after his contract's over. But it's an expensive offense now. My gosh, expensive offense. But yeah, I got to see JMO put it out there 1 more year. I got to see him go out there, stay healthy, stay on the field, produce. I know he'll produce, but he's got to stay on the field. He did a pretty good job this year. I know he got in this little stupid situation early in the year, but if he's clean, if he's completely good this year, locked in, balls out, yeah, you're good. He'll get paid somewhere. Could be here. Not saying he won't be. Just saying it's something interesting to follow. Arthur says this is exactly why the talk of trying to get Myles Garrett is ridiculous. Not only give up draft picks, but you're adding another $30 million player. Yeah, and honestly, and here's the thing, Arthur, you gotta look at it from a different perspective here, and it's a little funny, and maybe I should have known better. But you hear Myles Garrett come out and say, "It's not about the money." It isn't. It's always about the money. It's always about the money, man. So when he says it's not about the money, it's about winning. It's about a championship. It's like, okay. And then he gets signed, and then he gets signed to the highest paid non-quarterback. It's like, okay, I'm a fucking idiot. It's like if I hear that quote again, I'm not taking it serious. It's not. Yeah, Silent, you're right. You know what, Silent, you're right. I'm an idiot. I believed it, and I should know better. Yeah, I respect it. I do. I mean, get your bag, man. Get your bag. Think about it. There's people that win Super Bowl rings that go broke and end up selling their Super Bowl rings. Like money, I get it. You want to win. You want to win rings, of course. But you want to be paid while doing it. Trust me on that. Unless you've made a shit ton of money and you're like 38, and you're like, I just want to win a championship, man. Just one last time. Stuff. Money comes first, man. I mean, as much as I would love to stare at a ring in an apartment, I would rather be staring at it in a penthouse. You know what I mean? So I would, that's how I am. Booner says, majority of these guys aren't going broke. Come on now. Booner, you should better do your research, bro. Look into how many athletes go broke, man. It's a lot more than you think. You're thinking of the star players. It's like star players. Like LeBron James ain't going broke. But trust me, there's a lot of guys that end up going broke. I mean, Adrian Peterson had to file for bankruptcy, man. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. But yeah, everyone has different things. I mean, and Booner's not wrong. There are people that just value rings. Cool. But I want to get paid. That's what I want to do. And then I'll win a ring at some point. So both are true. We're literally arguing really nothing. Perry says, players want to get paid first and foremost, winning is secondary. Yeah. Coach Walk says these guys think the money will always be there. Booner says integrity or money. Give me integrity. Nope. You can, you say that, but when someone throws $30 million at you, Make you question your integrity. I'll tell you that. I mean, all these chicks on OnlyFans. Yeah. Nah. Where's that integrity? It's messed up, man. It's just how it is. It's the world we're in. Whether you agree with it or not, it's just how it is. Selling ass for all this, whatever. It is what it is. Booner says, no one's buying me out of crunch time. Well, there you go, Boone. Yeah, it's just, he said, I want to win with my squad. Benji said, this would be a terrible day for X to go down. Is it down? So it's not just me. It's glitching out, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is terrible, actually. If Twitter's down, this is fucking terrible. Hold on. Oh yeah, this could be bad. This could be really bad. Yeah. You're gonna, I mean, yeah. Thanks, Elon, you douche. I mean, this is ridiculous. You better, yeah. This is honestly one of the worst timings ever. That Twitter is literally down. You're gonna have to get your news on Instagram or Facebook. You know, just how it is, I guess. Let's see. Benji says, I guess we have to wait in tomorrow's newspaper to see who we signed. I mean, yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Arthur says Ndamukong Suh reproved it's all about the money. He went to Miami because they didn't have income tax. They didn't have income tax in Florida. Yeah, smart, man. I mean, it is. Go to Florida. You go to Texas. Don't go to Cali. Shit, they'll take half your money. Booner says Twitter turns back on and the Lions have Trey Hendrickson. Yeah, that'd be a pipe dream. Imagine that, though. Oh, my gosh. You know how fast it'd be like Zadarius Smith wouldn't even be a vocabulary word in my head. The Zadarius Smith, just the name would poof. Be like an X. You meet someone else and you're like, oh, hold on. Don't even remember this person. That's going to be the Trey Hendrickson to Zadarius Smith. It's going to be like, okay. You know what? I was being a little ridiculous about Zadarius. Hey, how you doing, Trey Hendrickson? Nice to meet you. Come lead the league in sacks on the Lions. Or actually be second because Aiden will be first. I would forget about Zadarius so quick. Wouldn't even be fair, dude. It just wouldn't be fair. It would not be fair. We got our first Bear fan. Even though I get accused of being a Bear fan because I think they'll be second in the NFC North this year. But, welcome to the show. Silence says, I would still draft Izaraku if y'all got Hendrickson. Yeah, I mean, that's Boone's guy, man. I mean, hey, we'll see what happens. I think they bring in 1 to 2 defensive linemen through the draft. So that's still going to happen, in my opinion. Like I said, you get 1 in free agency, you get 2 in the draft. I think everyone's happy. Everyone's happy. At least my opinion. I don't know. Maybe people are still pissed about Za'Darius. Just how it is. So I can't wait. I'm excited for this free agency, but I'm also nervous. I'm very nervous. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think there'll be some massive signing, but I am nervous. And I'm curious, like Khalil Mack guys. And speaking of the Bears, here's the thing. And I talked about this earlier. Bears are going to be in on Khalil Mack. Okay. Everywhere I see, and people are going to hate. Apparently, I got Bears algorithm on my Twitter. Khalil Mack, they all want him to. And he played there already. So if you think Khalil Mack's just going to choose the Lions just because it's the Lions, he's going to have a market. He's going to have a market of other teams that want to pay him. So you're going to have to get into a bidding war a little bit. You know what I mean? You're going to have to get into a little bit of a bidding war. Now, he does want to win a Super Bowl, I'm sure. Hey, we talked about that. We'll see if he wants to win a Super Bowl because he would come to the Lions then. He'd have a better shot than the Bears. Sorry. At least this year. And he's a little older, so. But still, the Bears are going to be trying to get him. So, Shift God says, if James Pierce Jr., Kenneth Grant Jr. falls, yeah, I'm cool with both, man. I would love Kenneth Grant. That dude he's a beast. He's a really good player. We'll see what happens, guys. I'm fired up, and we will be covering all free agency here on Crunch Time as always. You guys know what the deal is, man. And I appreciate you all for your constant support. It's been fun. I know the Za'Darius Smith video has like 200, 300 comments on it. It's ridiculous. So I've tried to respond to as many as I can, but there's just like every minute there's more comments. So, and I love that. I love it being just a community discussion about people being pissed off. Like I love that. Come to Crunch Time and vent. It's awesome. I love it. It's awesome. So I appreciate you all. Continue to support us, man, just like you guys always do. Get your merchandise, officialctsports.com. And we will be live tonight, 8 to 10 p.m. to break down free agency, at least the first day of free agency. I don't know if anything will happen. I mean, is it still down? Yep, we're screwed. All right. It's still down. So, yep. All right. Well, we'll see how that ages. This could be a disaster, but we'll catch you guys. I will catch you guys later. No mock draft today. It's free agency, so I'm not going to just put one out to put one out. I really do care. I mean, I really lock in for these mock drafts, so I'm not just putting one out because it's Monday. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what happens in free agency. I'll come out with mine next week. Recap free agency. So that's where I'm at with it. But until tonight, I will catch you all. Come on, Brad. Let's do something special. Peace.